Here at the Anti-Racist Development Institute, we've employed an awesome methodology called design thinking.
It's more like a process for thinking than it is anything else.
Design thinking causes me to solve problems in a different way by looking at the user and deciding from their viewpoint how to solve the problem.
Really what design thinking is, and it goes back a long way, is it's a collection of strategies, best practices, long researched lessons learned on how to reapproach something that's been in place a long time, or how to solve a problem that appears to either have contradictory requirements or too many factors, too many people impacted. How do you pull all this together, and how do you possibly go about solving it? That's how this set of techniques and tools and processes came to be.
And you might be thinking, but what does this have to do with anti-racism? Aren't these two separate and distinct? Well, yeah, but they're also related. Because in order to move forward through anti-racism and with anti-racism, we need to fundamentally change the systems that have developed.
There are 5 steps. The first step is empathy. This is my favorite step, and it's a very important step. It involves putting yourself in the shoes of the person, thinking about, empathizing, really identifying with who your user is in a very thoughtful, determined manner.
This might be through developing more characteristics. So if you don't know enough about a person, you might sort of flesh out some of the characteristics, or it might be interviewing the person who's having the issue. But what it's going to do is develop a full profile of the person, empathize with that person or user, although sometimes that's a difficult word to use. And then it's building out what might this user's pain points be, and really making those pain points the central focus of how to develop a solution to the problem. So instead of the solution being good for the system, an institution, it's really developing a solution that is directly responsive to the user's pain points.
The define step gives us an opportunity to be more specific about the type of need or the type of pain that we are solving for.
Because you have spent so much time in the first phase of knowing your user and knowing everything about them, then you're able to define their needs within the context of the problem.
So take the empathy and create a needs statement. So that might be Nicole needs to get to her work with reliable transportation, or Nicole needs to purchase a new house in Cranston, Rhode Island. But whatever it is, we can develop a needs statement that responds directly to the empathizing we were doing. It's okay if there's several needs statements, but you probably want to pick one to go forward into the next process. And remember, everything is iterative and failure tolerant. So if you have to go back and start from the beginning again or start halfway through the process, not only is that okay, but it's expected.
The next phase, ideate, when you're deciding what solution, we take those considerations that come from our users, what matters to our users, and then we can use various ways like brainstorming to go through a range of ideas.
In the ideation stage, we consider that there are no limits. There are no limits to what something might cost. There are no limits to how feasible something might be or how practical we think it is. We can imagine, like the Jetsons, what it's like to have moving walkways and different types of technology that can help ease the pain that folks are experiencing in our communities.
When we were ideating, we came up with all of these ideas. And in prototype, we pick one and we further develop it. And to prototype it, we might build a model. Or if it's something like an idea, maybe it's harder to build a model, but we could draw a picture of it. We could draw a picture, and as a group or even as an individual, we could flesh it out a little bit and come up with, well, will this work?
So the prototype stage allows us to be a little bit more practical with what we have what we've dreamt about.
So we want to test this theory out. And right now, that's all it is. It isn't a solution, it's a theory based on empathy for one user. So in some cases, we might go to the user and we might say, hey, this is a potential solution we came up with. What do you think about it?
We're going to start small and specific with one change, or we're going to do it for one part of a process. We're going to give that time. We're going to talk to our users again. And we're maybe going to go back to empathize. We're going to start from there and pick up the parts we use for what we already know, but we'll look at how to keep evolving.
And the best part about this methodology is that it does not stop with testing it out. Once we test it out, we get to start all over again and go back to that empathize point, go back to the beginning and think, is there a way that we need to think more about the prototype that we just developed? Or is it possible that there are, among the many different pain points that are present in our communities, what other pain points could we begin to solve around? What other pain points could we begin to think differently about? Who else in our community is experiencing pain? Because as quiet as it's kept, white supremacy and racism are hurting everyone.
If we rely on status quo to be anti-racism, it will never be anti-racist. And so anti-racism requires us to disrupt the very status quo that we might be comfortable or even uncomfortable with. And systems design or design thinking is one tool that allows us all to interrupt those systems. And once you do it for a while, it becomes really comfortable. And so it makes the discomfort of interrupting systemic racism and institutional systems way more comfortable.
But I've always thought how you treat the most vulnerable, the marginalized, reflects on our society. And I think that really ties into the Antiracist Development Institute and looking at when we're solving problems, are we looking at the needs of the most vulnerable? Are we looking at the needs of the most marginalized? And that's where the whole design thinking really shifts the focus to that, to us empathizing, to us being able to see the world from the viewpoint of the most vulnerable.
We have to be patient with each other, that we have to be patient with the process, and that we have to be patient with knowing that we have inherited a country that has sometimes forgotten about those who have built this country. And then how it is that we get to understand our country is contingent upon the grace and the patience that we have for finding a new way forward. And we are proud to lead the way with that approach here at the Antiracist Development Institute.